The night was quiet, too quiet, and the human named Daniel walked alone down the dusty road, his boots pressed against the ground with slow, tired steps. He had just finished another long day at the factory. His shoulders ached, his hands were dirty, and all he wanted was to reach home, eat something warm, and fall into his small bed. The road stretched under the silver light of 2 moons. The stars above seemed cold, distant, and silent. The forest on both sides was dark, full of strange shapes that swayed in the wind. Daniel kept his head low. He was used to walking alone, and he never expected anything unusual. For him, life was always simple: work, food, sleep, repeat. But that night was different. A sudden sound broke the silence. It was not the howl of an animal, not the whistle of the wind. It was softer, weaker, almost broken. A child's voice crying. Daniel stopped. His body froze. His ears tried to catch the sound again. At first he thought he imagined it. Maybe it was only the wind through the trees. But then he heard it again. Clear this time, a young voice, trembling, calling out, "Please, help." Daniel turned his head slowly. His eyes scanned the shadows of the trees. The road felt colder now. His heart beat faster in his chest. He whispered to himself, "Who is there?" But no one answered. Then, from the darkness, something moved. A small figure stumbled out of the trees and into the moonlight. Daniel gasped softly. It was not a normal child. Her skin glowed faintly with a pale silver shine. Her eyes were large and bright like pools of light. Her clothes were torn, covered in dirt. Her tiny hands shook as she reached out. She looked no older than 8, but she was not human. She was alien. The child's lips trembled, her voice cracked, as she spoke. "Please, human, help us. They locked my mother in a cage." Daniel froze. He blinked, trying to understand her words. He had seen aliens before, of course, workers in the city, merchants at the market, but never a child. Never one so broken, so desperate. His throat felt dry, his mind raced. The girl stepped closer and clutched his sleeve. Her fingers were thin, fragile, like glass ready to break. Her wide eyes stared into his, begging. She whispered again, her voice shaking. "They took my mother. They put her in chains. I ran away. Please, you must help me." Daniel's chest tightened. He looked down at her small face, and his heart sank. He could see the fear in her eyes, the tears on her cheeks. She was trembling, every part of her body screaming pain and hunger, but at the same time he felt something else. Danger. His eyes lifted to the forest where she had come from. The shadows looked deeper now, darker, like they were hiding something. He thought he saw a flicker of light, maybe torches, maybe strange alien tech. He knew this could mean trouble. He whispered, "Who locked your mother? Who did this?" The girl shook her head quickly. Her hair fell over her face. She looked around nervously like someone was chasing her. Finally, she answered in a whisper, "Slavers. Bad men. They catch people. Sell them. My mother is strong, but they beat her. They locked her in a cage. I escaped, but I cannot save her alone." Her voice cracked into sobs. She buried her face into Daniel's shirt, gripping him tightly like he was the last safe thing in the world. Daniel stood stiff. His mind shouted at him to walk away. This was not his fight. He was just a simple man, poor, tired, weak. What could he do against slavers? They were dangerous, armed, cruel. But when he looked at the child, he felt his chest burn. He remembered his own little sister years ago, before the war took her. He remembered her tears, her cries for help. He had not been able to save her. Then now this alien girl was in front of him, begging. His hand slowly rested on her shoulder. "Listen," he said, voice heavy but gentle. "If I help, they might come for me too. They might kill us both. Do you understand?" The girl looked up at him, her silver eyes shining with tears. Her words were simple but sharp as a blade. "If you don't help, my mother will die." Daniel's breath caught in his chest. The road behind him was safe. He could walk away and never look back, but deep down he knew he could not. He could not leave a child alone in the night crying for her mother. His fists tightened. His fear turned into something else. Determination. "Show me," he whispered. "Take me to where they keep her." The girl's face lit with a weak hope. She nodded quickly and pulled his hand. "This way, hurry before they see us." Daniel followed her into the trees. The forest swallowed them in shadows, his heart beat like a drum in his chest. He did not know if he was walking toward death or something greater, but he knew one thing. His life was no longer simple. The forest was dark. Every step Daniel took felt heavier than the last. Branches cracked under his boots, shadows stretched like claws around them. The little alien girl moved quickly, almost too quickly for her small size. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to appear from the darkness. Daniel whispered, trying to keep his voice low. "What's your name?" The girl slowed for a moment. Her small hand tightened around his fingers. "Lyra," she said softly. "My name is Lyra." Her voice was broken, fragile, yet there was strength hidden deep inside. Daniel looked at her carefully. He could see fresh bruises on her arms, thin scratches on her neck. Her legs trembled as she walked, but she refused to stop. "Lyra," he said gently, "tell me what happened. Who are these slavers? Why did they take your mother?" Lyra stopped suddenly. Her glowing silver eyes filled with fear. She pressed her finger to her lips and pointed to the trees around them. A low hum echoed in the distance, like strange alien machinery turning. Daniel's chest tightened. His instincts told him danger was near. After a moment of silence, Lyra spoke in a whisper. "They came at night, big men with metal masks. They carried weapons that spit fire. They broke into our home. They wanted us because we are different." Daniel frowned. "Different? How?" Lyra lifted her hands. She showed him faint, glowing lines across her palms, like tiny patterns of light etched into her skin. "We are marked," she said. "My people carry light. Inside they say it makes us valuable. Some call it magic, some call it power, the slavers. They call it money." Her voice cracked on the last word. Daniel felt a sharp sting in his chest. He had heard stories before, rumors of alien children sold in secret markets, their gifts used like tools, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. This was no story. This was real. Lyra's steps slowed. She looked up at him with tears shimmering in her eyes. "My mother tried to fight them. She told me to run. She screamed for me not to look back, but I saw them hit her. She fell. They chained her neck. They laughed at her cries. Her tiny fists clenched at her sides. Her body shook with both fear and anger. Daniel wanted to say something to comfort her, but his throat felt tight. His mind kept replaying her words, chains, cages, laughter. He asked carefully, "Why didn't they take you too?" Lyra looked down, shame filling her face. "They did," she whispered. "They caught me. They locked me in a smaller cage. I thought I would never leave, but—" She hesitated, then pulled back her sleeve, revealing a thin cut on her arm. "I slipped through when they were fighting among themselves. I crawled out while they drank and argued. I ran, and I found you." Daniel stared at the cut, fresh and raw. His chest burned with anger. This child had escaped only by luck, and if he hadn't been on that road tonight, she might have died alone in the forest. He knelt down in front of her, his voice low but steady. "You're very brave, Lyra, but you shouldn't be here alone. Do you know how many of them are guarding your mother?" Lyra's lips trembled. "Too many, 10. Maybe more. They have big lights, strange guns, and a ship hidden in the woods. They plan to leave when the sun rises. If they take her away—" Her voice broke. "I'll never see her again." Daniel's stomach turned. He had no weapons, no armor, no plan. Just his bare hands and a heart that refused to abandon her. He rubbed his forehead, trying to think. His voice came out rough. "You should have gone to the city guards. They could have helped." But Lyra shook her head fiercely. "No, the guards. They are paid by the slavers. They do nothing. Sometimes they even help them." Her eyes glowed brighter with anger. You're the only one who stopped for me. Everyone else looks away." Her words struck Daniel deep. He remembered how many times he himself had looked away when others needed help, telling himself it was not his problem. Tonight he had the chance to change that. Before he could speak again, Lyra suddenly dropped to the ground and pulled him with her. Daniel's body hit the dirt hard. He opened his mouth to ask why. But then he saw it. A beam of light cut through the trees, bright and searching. Voices echoed in the distance, harsh and cruel. The slavers were near. Daniel held his breath. His body pressed against the earth. He felt the girl's small body trembling beside him. The voices grew louder, metallic sounds of weapons clanking against armor. Then slowly the lights moved away, fading into the deeper forest. Lyra's breath shook as she whispered, "They are searching for me. They know. I escaped. If they find me, they will kill me. And my mother?" Daniel's jaw clenched. His fear grew heavier, but so did his resolve. He looked at the small child clinging to him, her silver eyes shining even in the dark, and he whispered, "Then we have no choice. We must save her before dawn." Lyra's lips parted in shock, her voice barely a whisper. "You will help me? Truly?" Daniel nodded slowly. His voice was firm, stronger than he felt inside. "Yes, I will, I promise." Tears filled the girl's eyes. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you, human, thank you." In that moment, Daniel knew there was no turning back. His simple life was gone. Ahead of him waited danger, blood, and fear, but also a chance to do something he had never done before, make a stand. The forest grew darker, the sounds of the slavers still echoing, and Daniel realized the night had only just begun. The forest grew darker with every step. The air was heavy and damp, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. Daniel followed Lyra closely, his eyes sharp, his ears straining for any sound. Each time a twig snapped beneath his boot, he froze, afraid. The noise would betray them. Lyra moved like she knew the way. Her small feet were silent, but her shoulders shook with fear. She whispered, "Not far now. Their camp is ahead." Her glowing silver eyes flickered with both hope and terror. Daniel's heart beat like a drum in his chest. He kept asking himself the same question. What am I doing? He was only one man. No weapon, no armor, no training. The slavers were many, armed and cruel. If they caught him, he would be dead before sunrise. But then he looked at the child beside him, small, trembling, yet refusing to give up. And he knew why he walked this dark path, because she had no one. Else the trees thinned, and a strange humming sound filled the night. Daniel crouched low, pulling Lyra down with him. Through the branches, he saw it, the slavers' camp. It was a clearing lit by burning lamps stuck into the ground. Strange machines hissed and buzzed, glowing with alien symbols. At the center stood cages, thick bars shining under the moons. Inside one of them, Daniel saw her, Lyra's mother. She was tall, her silver skin bruised and cut, her long hair tangled and dirty, her eyes dim with exhaustion. She sat on the ground, heavy chains wrapped around her arms and neck. Her chest rose and fell slowly, but she was alive. Lyra's hand clutched Daniel's, arm tightly, her lips parted as a silent sob escaped. "Mother," she whispered. Her voice was so small, so fragile. Daniel thought his heart would break, but before he could move closer, his eyes caught the rest of the camp. Slavers, at least 10 of them, tall, armored, and armed with strange rifles that sparked with blue light. Some laughed loudly around a fire. Others sharpened blades or argued in harsh voices. Their shadows moved across the tents like monsters waiting to hunt. Daniel's throat tightened. His mind screamed at him. "This is madness. You cannot fight them. You will die." He grabbed Lyra's hand and whispered firmly, "We can't rush in. If we do, they'll kill us both, and your mother too. We need to think." Lyra's tears glistened, but she nodded slowly. Her small body trembled with frustration. "She doesn't have much time," she whispered. "They said when the sun rises they leave. They will take her away, and I will never see her again." Her words stabbed Daniel's chest like a blade. He knew she was right. Time was against them. The slavers would not wait. They crawled backward into the cover of the trees. Daniel leaned against a trunk, trying to breathe. His mind raced for answers, but fear kept clouding his thoughts. He muttered, "What can I do? How do I fight them?" Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Her voice was quiet but sharp. "You are human, you are brave. I saw it when you didn't walk away. Others, they never stopped, but you did." Daniel shook his head, his voice bitter. "I'm no soldier, no hero. I'm just a worker. I've never fought anyone like them." Lyra placed her tiny hand over his, her voice trembling but certain. "But you are all I have. If you don't help me, then no one will." Daniel closed his eyes. Her words cut through every doubt. He saw again the memory of his sister, how helpless he had felt then. He would not repeat that mistake. Not this time. The night grew colder. A howl echoed in the distance, followed by the sound of laughter from the slaver camp. Daniel clenched his fists. His body shook, not only with fear but with anger. How dare they lock a mother in chains? How dare they laugh while a child cries for help? He whispered to Lyra, "We will save her, but we must be careful. Tell me everything you know about the camp." Lyra wiped her tears with her sleeve. She nodded quickly and began to explain. "There are 3 guards near the cages. They do not leave. The others sit by the fire or check the machines. The ship is hidden behind the tents. That's how they will escape when morning comes." Daniel nodded, studying every word. He peeked through the trees again. His eyes caught the pattern of the guards' movements. They paced slowly, sometimes stopping to talk, sometimes turning their backs. He whispered, "If I distract them, maybe you can reach your mother." But Lyra shook her head fiercely. "No. If they see me, they will kill her to punish me." Her words chilled Daniel's blood. These men were not just criminals, they were monsters. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of the slavers' fire in the distance. Finally, Daniel said, "Then I will go closer alone. I need to see the cage. See how it's locked. If there's a way to open it." Lyra's eyes widened in panic. "No, they will catch you." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice steady though his heart thundered. "I must. If I don't look, we cannot plan. Trust me, Lyra." Her lip trembled, but she nodded slowly. "I trust you." Daniel crouched low and began to crawl through the undergrowth. Every sound of leaves or twigs made his heart stop. The slavers' voices grew louder, the light brighter. He pressed himself into the dirt, inch by inch, until he was only a few meters away from the cages. His eyes locked onto Lyra's mother. Again her head lifted weakly, and for a moment her dim eyes met his. She blinked in confusion as if asking, "Who are you?" Daniel raised a finger to his lips, begging her for silence. She did not move, but tears slid down her cheeks. Then just as he reached the cage, a heavy voice barked nearby. A slaver turned his head, his glowing rifle in hand. His eyes narrowed into the trees. Daniel froze, his breath trapped in his chest. The dark path had only begun, and already danger stood at his throat. Daniel's heart pounded like a hammer inside his chest. He pressed himself low against the dirt, the rough earth scratching his skin. A slaver's heavy boots crunched not far away. The beam of his glowing rifle swept across the ground. The guard paused, his head turning slightly. Searching the shadows, Daniel held his breath. He prayed silently, begging the night to hide him. A single cough, a single snap of a twig, and it would all be over. The slaver muttered something in a rough alien tongue, then spat on the ground. Slowly he turned and walked back toward the fire. Daniel let out a slow breath. His body was trembling, but he forced himself to move forward, inch by inch, until finally, he was close enough to touch the cold metal bars of the cage. Inside, Lyra's mother sat hunched over. Her chains clinked softly as she lifted her head. Her silver skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen. Her lips cracked, but her gaze was fierce. She looked at Daniel, confusion in her eyes. Daniel whispered softly, his voice low and urgent, "Don't make a sound. I'm here to help. Your daughter sent me." At the mention of her daughter, The alien woman's dull eyes flickered with sudden life. She tried to rise, but the chains dragged her back down. Her lips trembled as she whispered, barely audible, "Lyra." She escaped. Daniel nodded quickly. "Yes, she's safe. She found me. I promised her I would save you." The woman's eyes filled with tears that glistened. In the moonlight, she pressed her chained hands together, whispering, "Thank the stars, my child, my Lyra." Then her voice hardened, low and desperate. "But you should leave, human. These men are killers. You cannot fight them alone." Daniel glanced at the lock on the cage. It was a strange alien device, glowing faintly with shifting blue lines. It wasn't like any human lock he had ever seen. It hummed softly as though alive, his stomach twisted. "How am I supposed to open this?" He reached out, testing it with his hand. The lock buzzed sharply, sending a shock through his fingers. He bit back a cry of pain, pulling his hand away. The mother shook her head, whispering urgently, "It is bound with power. You cannot break it with hands. You need their key." Before Daniel could respond, laughter erupted near the fire. He froze, his eyes darting to the slavers. One of them, tall and broad with a scar running down his cheek, rose from the group. He carried a chain of keys strapped to his belt. They jingled with each step as he walked past the cages. Daniel's eyes locked onto them. That's it, he thought. That's the way to open it, but stealing them would be close to impossible. The slaver carried his rifle proudly, his eyes sharp. His friends called after him, mocking and laughing. He laughed too, kicking at the dirt near the cages. "Not much left in you, eh? You'll fetch fewer coins, but still worth the trouble?" He sneered at Lyra's mother. The woman lowered her head, refusing to look at him. Daniel's blood boiled. Every word from the slaver's mouth was like poison. He wanted to leap from the shadows to punch that sneer off his face, but he forced himself to stay still. Not now, not yet. The slaver moved on, joining another guard. They began talking in low voices, unaware of the human eyes watching them. Daniel turned back to the alien mother. "I'll get you out, I swear, but you must stay strong a little longer." She looked at him, her voice weak but filled with iron. "You are foolish, human, but brave. If you can save her. If you can, save Lyra, then do not think of me, take her and run." Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, I will save you both, I promised her, and I don't break promises." Her lips parted, surprised at his determination. For a moment she simply stared at him, as if trying to understand what kind of man he was. Suddenly, footsteps approached. Daniel ducked low, sliding into the shadows beneath the cages. His heart raced as two guards came closer, their voices rough and careless. "The boss says we move at dawn," one said. "Good." The other grunted. "I'm tired of this stinking forest." They stopped near the cages, one kicking at the bars. The alien mother flinched but remained silent. Daniel pressed himself deeper. Into the dirt, every nerve screamed danger. He clenched his jaw, forcing himself to remain still as the guards lingered. Finally, after a long moment, they turned away, walking back toward the fire. Daniel crawled backward slowly, his breath heavy. When he was far enough, he slipped into the cover of the trees where Lyra was waiting. Her eyes widened as she saw him return. She whispered urgently, "What did you see? Is she alive?" Daniel nodded. "She's alive, but the cage is locked with something I can't break. I need the key. One of them carries it on his belt." Lyra's face paled. "That man, he is cruel, he beats her, he will never let you take it." Daniel's jaw tightened, his voice was low but sharp. "Then I will take it from him one way or another." The girl shook her head quickly, fear shining in her eyes. "No, they will. Kill you if they catch you." Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "If I don't try, your mother will be taken away forever. Do you want that?" Her lips trembled, but she whispered, "No." Daniel placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "Then trust me. I'll find a way." Behind them, the slavers' laughter filled the night. The fire crackled, the keys jingled, and the mother sat in chains, waiting. The cage of chains would not hold forever. But to break it, Daniel would have to step into the lion's den. Daniel crouched low in the shadows, His eyes never left the man with the scar, the one who carried the keys. Every jingle of the chain at the slaver's belt sounded louder than the fire crackling. In the camp, louder than the laughter of his companions, Lyra clung to his sleeve, her small hands trembling. "You cannot fight him," she whispered. "He is strong. He has weapons. And you are only human." Daniel looked at her, his jaw set tight. "Maybe I am only human," he said softly. "But sometimes that is enough." His words surprised even himself. He had never been brave before. He had always kept his head low, worked hard, and avoided trouble. But tonight was different. This child had chosen him, trusted him, and he could not let her down. He studied the camp, counting the slavers' movements. Most of them were drinking, shouting, laughing near the fire. Two paced near the cages, while another checked the machines humming at the edge of the clearing. The scarred man stood close to the others, but not too close. Always restless, always walking. As if daring someone to challenge him, Daniel whispered, "I need to separate him from the others. If I can knock him down fast, take the keys, we'll have a chance." Lyra's silver eyes widened in panic. "If they see you, they will kill you." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and calm, though his insides shook with fear. "Then I must make sure they don't see me. Stay hidden no matter what." She nodded slowly, though her lip trembled. Daniel crawled forward, each step careful, his body low, his breath shallow. He grabbed a heavy stone from the ground, rough and jagged. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. His fingers tightened around it as if it were a blade. The scarred slaver moved away from the fire, muttering to himself as he kicked dirt at the machines. His rifle hung lazily at his side. His keys jingled against his thigh. Daniel's muscles tensed. Now or never. He burst from the shadows, silent but fast. His hand clamped over the slaver's mouth as the stone smashed against the side of his head. The man grunted, staggered, his rifle clattering against the dirt. Daniel struck again, the stone cracking down hard. The slaver fell to his knees, struggling, but Daniel's arm locked around his throat, choking the breath from him. The man clawed at Daniel's arm, his boots scraping against the dirt. His strength was brutal, almost too much. Daniel's lungs burned as he fought to keep hold. His vision swam, but he did not let go. Finally, with a shuddering gasp, the slaver went limp. Collapsing to the ground unconscious, Daniel's chest heaved. His body shook from both fear and exertion. Sweat stung his eyes. He quickly ripped the keys from the man's belt and dragged the body into the shadows, covering it with branches and leaves. Lyra rushed to him, her eyes wide with disbelief. You did it?" Daniel nodded, pressing the keys into his hand tightly. "Yes, but we don't have much time. They will notice he's gone." He moved quickly, leading Lyra back to the cages. His eyes darted nervously to the guards, still pacing lazily, unaware of what had happened. When he reached the cage, Lyra's mother lifted her head weakly. Her eyes widened at the sight of the keys. You truly mean to free me?" she whispered in disbelief. Daniel slid the first key into the glowing lock. It hummed, the lines shifting like veins of light. The key resisted, then twisted with a sharp click. Sparks danced across the bars, the hum lowered, the chains loosened slightly. But before he could finish, a shout erupted across the camp. One of the guards had turned, his sharp eyes noticing movement at the cage. "Hey!" he roared, lifting his rifle. The firelight flared as the slaver shouted for the others. Chaos erupted. Daniel shoved the key again, the lock hissing and crackling before finally bursting open with a flash of light. The cage door swung wide. Lyra's mother collapsed into his arms, her body weak and trembling. "Run!" Daniel barked. He pulled the woman onto his shoulder, clutching Lyra's hand with his other. They dashed into the trees just as energy blasts struck the ground around them. Dirt and fire exploded in the air. Slavers shouted, "Get them! Don't let them escape!" Daniel's legs pumped with desperate strength. His lungs burned, branches whipped against his face. But he did not stop. The weight of the alien woman pressed hard on his back, but he carried her like she was light. As air, Lyra ran beside him, tears streaming down her cheeks, but her grip on his hand never loosened. She shouted, "This way, I know a path." Behind them, the forest lit with streaks of blue fire as the slavers gave chase. Their voices echoed like demons in the dark. Daniel stumbled but forced himself forward. They crashed through bushes, jumped over roots, and darted past trees. The mother groaned weakly on his shoulder, whispering, "Leave me. Save my child, please." Daniel shook his head fiercely, his voice breaking through his heavy breaths. "No, I won't leave either of you." The forest seemed endless, but Daniel's strength came from something deeper than muscle. It came from the promise he had made, the trust in Lyra's eyes, the tears on her mother's face. Finally, they reached a clearing, but Daniel's heart sank. Dead end. A wall of jagged rocks rose before them, too high to climb quickly. Behind them, the glow of slavers' rifles lit the trees, the sound of boots growing closer. Daniel's chest heaved, his mind racing. He set the mother gently against the rocks and turned to face the darkness. His fists clenched, his eyes burning with determination. For the first time in his life, Daniel did not run from danger. He stood tall, ready to fight. The slavers burst into the clearing, weapons raised, their cruel laughter cutting through the night. "A human?" one sneered. "You think you can stop us?" Daniel's voice rang out, strong and unshaken. "I don't need to stop all of you. I only need to protect them." And with nothing but his bare hands and unbreakable will, the human prepared to make his stand. The clearing shook with voices harsh and mocking. The slavers spread out in a half-circle, their glowing rifles aimed at Daniel, Lyra, and her weakened mother. The firelight from the camp still flickered in the distance, but here in the clearing, it was only shadows, danger, and the sound of boots grinding against the dirt. Daniel's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. His fists clenched tight. He had no weapon, no armor, and no plan except one: protect the child and her mother. One of the slavers stepped forward, his fangs showing in a cruel grin. "Look at this. A human peasant dares to steal from us. You think your bones are stronger than our chains?" The others laughed loudly, their voices echoing like thunder in the night. Daniel glanced at Lyra, who pressed against the rocks, clutching her mother's hand. Her silver eyes were wide with terror. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Don't die. Please don't die." Something in her voice burned inside him. Fear tried to crush him, but her words lit a fire instead. He straightened his back, his eyes locked on the slavers. "I don't care about your weapons," Daniel growled. "But if you want them, you'll have to go through me," the slavers sneered. One of them raised his rifle to fire. Daniel moved first. He grabbed a loose stone from the ground and hurled it with all his strength. It struck the guard's wrist, the rifle blasting upward, burning the trees instead of Daniel. In that moment of chaos, Daniel lunged forward, slamming his shoulder into the slaver's chest. The man staggered back, surprised at the force. Daniel ripped the rifle from his hands and swung it like a club, smashing it into another slaver's face. Sparks flew as the weapon cracked. "Run, Lyra!" Daniel shouted. Lyra grabbed her mother under the arms, trying to pull her toward the side of the rocks. Her tiny body shook with effort, but she refused to let go. The slavers roared in anger. One struck Daniel across the back with a heavy rod. Pain exploded through him. He fell to one knee but rolled quickly, dodging another strike. He gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain, and tackled the man's legs, bringing him down hard. Dust rose as they wrestled on the ground, fists flying. Daniel's knuckles split. Blood smeared across his hand, but he did not stop. He punched again and again until the slaver went limp. Then he staggered to his feet, dizzy but alive. More voices shouted in the distance, more slavers coming from the camp. The sound of boots pounded. Closer, time was running out. "Daniel," Lyra cried. Her mother groaned weakly, too weak to stand. They were trapped. Daniel's eyes darted around the clearing, searching desperately. Then he saw it, between the rocks, a narrow crack leading into darkness, a hidden path just wide, enough for them to slip through. He ran to Lyra, grabbing her arm. "There, take your mother inside, hurry." Lyra's silver eyes widened with hope. She pulled with all her strength, guiding her mother toward the crack. The woman stumbled, nearly collapsing, but Daniel lifted her again, half carrying, half dragging her into the narrow path. Behind them, the slavers shouted, firing their rifles. Blue energy blasts struck the rocks, burning holes into the stone. The air shook with explosions. Lyra screamed but kept moving. Inside the crack it was dark and tight. The walls pressed close, scraping against Daniel's shoulders as he pushed them forward. The ground sloped downward into a hidden tunnel, damp and cold. The slavers' voices echoed above. "Find them! They can't have gone far!" Their boots thundered against the ground, but the rocks blocked their view. Daniel panted heavily, his back screaming with pain. His arms felt like lead, but he refused to stop. He half whispered, half growled. "Keep going. Don't stop." The tunnel twisted and turned, finally opening into a wider cave. Here the air was cooler, dripping water echoing in the silence. Daniel set the mother gently against the wall. His own knees buckled, and he collapsed beside her, his body trembling. From exhaustion, Lyra knelt at her mother's side, tears rolling down her face. "Mother, please stay awake." The woman lifted a weak hand, touching Lyra's cheek. Her lips moved softly. "You are safe." "That is enough." Daniel shook his head fiercely. "No, not enough. We need to get you both far away from here. They'll keep hunting until they have you." The mother's dim eyes turned toward him. Her voice was low, filled with both gratitude and disbelief. Why would a human risk his life for us? You owe us nothing." Daniel looked at her, his voice steady though his body shook. "Because no one should be in chains. Not you, not your daughter, not anyone." For a moment, silence filled the cave. Only the drip of water echoed. Then the woman closed her eyes, whispering, "Perhaps humans are stronger than I thought." Before Daniel could reply, Lyra gasped. She pointed to the entrance of the tunnel. Faint light flickered there. Shadows moved. Slavers with torches and rifles. They had found the way. Daniel's jaw clenched. He forced himself to stand, every muscle screaming in protest. He grabbed a broken piece of rock from the ground, holding it like a blade. His eyes burned with determination. He turned to Lyra and her mother, his voice low but firm. "Hide deeper. In the cave I'll hold them off." Lyra shook her head wildly. "No, you'll die." Daniel gave her a faint, tired smile. "Maybe. But if I don't fight, none of us will live. Trust me, Lyra. Just a little longer." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she clutched her mother's hand, dragging her deeper into the shadows of the cave. The flicker of torchlight grew brighter. The sound of boots and cruel laughter filled the air. Daniel stood tall at the mouth of the cave, his broken rock in hand, his body weak but his spirit unbroken. The desperate escape was not over. It had only just begun. The cave mouth glowed with torchlight. Shadows of slavers stretched across the stone walls. Their cruel laughter echoed. As their boots crunched closer, Daniel stood tall, his breath ragged. A jagged rock gripped tightly in his bleeding hand. His body was weak. His back ached from wounds. But his spirit burned brighter than fire. Behind him, Lyra crouched deeper. In the darkness, clutching her mother's hand, her silver eyes shone with tears. Her heart pounded with fear that this human, the only one who had stopped to help, would not survive. The first slaver entered, his glowing rifle raised. His sharp teeth gleamed in the firelight. "There you are, little mouse," he sneered. "Thought you could hide?" Daniel didn't wait. He lunged forward with surprising speed, swinging the jagged rock with both hands. The weapon smashed into the slaver's jaw, bone cracking under the force. The man screamed and stumbled back, blood spraying against the stone walls. Another slaver rushed in, firing his rifle. The blue blast struck the wall inches from Daniel, stone fragments slicing across his cheek. Daniel roared, tackling the slaver to the ground, his fists slammed again and again, fueled not by strength but by desperation, until the man lay still. But more voices shouted outside. More shadows moved. 5, maybe 6. They were too many. Daniel staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his knuckles. His chest heaved. He looked back at Lyra and her mother. His voice was low but steady. "No matter what happens, keep going deeper. Don't stop." Lyra shook her head, her voice cracking. "No, you promised. You said you wouldn't leave us." Daniel's eyes softened for a moment. "And I meant it, but if I fall here, it's only to buy you more time." Before Lyra could answer, 3 slavers stormed into the cave at once, their weapons. Glowing, Daniel charged, slamming into the nearest one before the man could aim. They crashed into the wall, Daniel twisting the rifle away and swinging it like a club. The blast fired wildly, striking another slaver in the chest. The man screamed as blue light burned through his armor. The cave filled with smoke, shouts, and the smell of burning metal. Daniel swung the rifle again, striking another across the skull. His arms shook with exhaustion, but he refused to stop. Every swing, every strike, was for Lyra and her mother. Still, the slavers pressed harder. One caught Daniel's arm, twisting it painfully. Another slammed a fist into his stomach. Daniel gasped, the air knocked from his lungs. He fell to his knees, pain exploding through his body. The scarred leader pushed through the smoke, his eyes burning with fury. "You think you are a hero, human? You are nothing. We will take them and we will sell them, and your broken body will rot here in the dirt." Daniel spat blood onto the ground. His voice was hoarse but unyielding. "No, you will never touch them again." Summoning every ounce of strength left in him, Daniel grabbed a sharp shard of stone from the ground and drove it into the slaver's leg. The man howled in pain, stumbling back. Daniel rose again, fists clenched, eyes blazing with fire. For a moment, even the slavers hesitated. The human should have been broken, yet he stood tall, unshaken. His presence filled the cave with something stronger than fear, stronger than pain, hope. And then suddenly the cave trembled with a new sound. A piercing cry filled the air. A blinding silver light burst from the darkness behind Daniel. Lyra stood with her arms spread, her eyes glowing brighter than the stars. The strange markings on her skin blazed like fire, the air hummed with raw energy. The slavers staggered, shielding their eyes. Her voice rang out, strong and unshaken. "Leave us!" The light exploded outward like a wave. Slavers were hurled back, their weapons crackling and shattering in their hands. The walls of the cave shook, dust raining from above. Daniel shielded his eyes but felt no harm. The light passed through, him like warmth, filling his chest with strength. When the glow faded, silence fell. The slavers lay scattered on the ground, unconscious or too broken to rise. The scarred leader groaned weakly, crawling toward the cave mouth before collapsing. Daniel stared at Lyra, breathless. What was that?" The girl's glowing eyes dimmed slowly. Her small body swayed. She fell to her knees, exhausted. Daniel rushed to catch her before she hit the ground. She whispered weakly, "My people, we carry the light, but I never used it before. Until now." Her mother, leaning against the wall, tears streaming down her bruised face, whispered, "She saved us, just like her father once did." Her eyes lifted to Daniel, shining with gratitude. "And you, human. You gave her the courage. Without you, she would not have found her strength." Daniel's chest ached with emotion. He looked at them both, his voice soft. "No, it was never me. It was both of you. You only needed someone to stand beside you." They moved slowly out of the cave as dawn painted the horizon with light. The slavers lay broken behind them, their weapons useless. Their cruelty ended. As the sun rose, Lyra walked beside Daniel, holding his hand tightly. Her mother leaned on his other side, each step painful but filled with hope. At the edge of the forest, Lyra whispered, her voice small but filled with meaning, "You didn't just save us. You gave us back our future." Daniel looked at her, his tired face softening into a faint smile. Then it was worth every step. And, for the first time in years, Daniel felt something he thought he had lost forever. Purpose. The poor, alien child had begged for help, and one simple human had answered. Together they had broken chains. And in that moment, a new story of hope was born, one that even the galaxy would never forget.